Oh my gosh.
Okay. Yes. We are indeed live again for our latest episode of our charity, London Autism Group Charity live streams that we're doing to support the autistic and wider autism community, particularly in terms of their mental health and well-being during the COVID-19 pandemic. And in line with the theme of mental health, and given it's also Mental Health Awareness Week this week, and given how crucially important mental health is with everything, we're really, really honored to have the expert in mental health, Katie Rose. So welcome
Hello.
to the live stream. Thanks for joining and thanks for making the time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I've been watching your weekly chats and I feel very honoured to be here. So thank you.
Oh, right. Wow. Well, we're honoured that you have been keeping an eye on them. That's great. James, how are you doing?
Yep, I'm fine. Welcome, Katie. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
We've also got a hello from Tigger. I'm not sure if you can see the questions pop
up. Oh, Tigger. Woo, woo. You need to interview him. He's amazing.
We have already interviewed. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, Tigger. I'm following his podcast. You need to do that. That's very
right. Yeah, I do have to do that. Yeah. For sure.
Excellent.
I hope Tigger is doing well. So hopefully we'll get some questions and some comments coming in, and maybe we can pick them up as we go along. It's not often we have someone of your expertise and knowledge that we can sort of tap into and get some impact from, so that's great. But I suppose it might be good just to start with perhaps an intro about the work that you do and your particular angle when it comes to mental health and that sort of thing. I know that you run the Best Medicine, don't you? Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. Oh, Joanna, before you start, Jo Grace has also said that
we are all watching.
Well.
Oh, hello, Jo.
Hi, Jo.
So I run a business called The Best Medicine, and I teach people how they can access and apply laughter and various other strategies to help cope with stress, anxiety and panic attacks. And I've come from an artistic background, so I'm quite creative, done lots of kind of been through a roller coaster of things with my own mental health, and have kind of like picked up lots of different things. Essentially what I do is really playful, and it's about getting people out of their busy brains and into their bodies. Oh, lots of hellos. Hi, Amy. I kind of teach breathing strategies and various things for calming down, but also laughter exercises that are very lifting, and it brings quite a nice balance. This time has been quite tricky in particular because I love bringing people together. Very much what I do is about connecting people with themselves, but also with others. So it's been quite, you have to get quite creative, don't you, when you're working from your bedroom and having to, but I've been doing kind of online workshops, which have been going quite well. So the magic is still there. You just have to get quite creative with how you deliver. So I work.
Go ahead.
I work predominantly with carers, teachers, healthcare professionals, people who are in highly stressful jobs, and also work with vulnerable adults and children. And what's great about these strategies is because they're so playful and very simple, not only are they good for us, but they're also very adaptable to kind of adults and children with additional needs. So it's kind of when I do a training day or a talk, I get people to really feel it, like try on the exercises for size. I get them standing up and moving and laughing, and then I give them some ideas of how they can start to implement that in their environments.
Wow, that's amazing. So Joe's just put in an interesting comment here. Jo Grace, hi Jo. I know lots of people are struggling with anxiety right now. people who perhaps have not experienced feeling anxious before. Good point. As well as those whose pre-existing anxiety conditions have been exacerbated by the lockdown. It would be great to hear some strategies from Katie that people could use to cope. Yeah, I fully agree, and that is, the sort of primary focus of today's conversation for sure.
Also, I think like this whole COVID-19 has, well, essentially, we're all going through a collective trauma, and if we've experienced trauma before in the past, then we're going to go back to how we dealt with it then and our coping strategies that we've learned to deal with trauma. So what's interesting is some people are highly productive in this time because experiencing trauma and stress makes them want to just work and get stuff done and feel productive. And other people like me kind of sometimes just need to stay in bed, just need to kind of ride the wave and be very gentle. So you must have probably, I think a lot of us have experienced this with kind of this roller coaster. So sometimes I do feel productive, but majority of the time I'm feeling like I need to lie low. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were interviewing an artist, and she said, she was asked, do you ever stop writing music? Do you ever get writer's block? And she said no. Like it's like an inhalation and an exhalation. Like when I'm feeling slow and I don't feel creative, I'm taking in all of what's in my environment, and when I'm exhaling, I'm giving it out. And at the moment, this is an inhalation because we're all having to sort of take in our environment and kind of go, it's different. Where do I stand in here? So it's a time, I think, for me, especially to go slow and to kind of look after myself. So my knee-jerk reaction to the virus was to write a self-care strategy for 21 days, every day for 21 days. So different simple ideas that help you to feel better, essentially. And they're relatively simple, but hopefully very useful in this kind of complicated time. You want simplicity, don't you? I don't know whether I answered any questions. I go off on tangents. I'm really sorry.
No, yeah, you did.
Yeah, and Katie, that was one of the first things I saw, and when we created on the website for our charity the resources for COVID back in, I think, when we saw the pandemic was coming, but pre-lockdown. As soon as you started that, doing that and putting that stuff out, we put a link to it straight away, and it's been on our website. So you've probably
thank you.
You've already been helping a lot of people.
Thank you.
From the community already.
That's really nice to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, it was very helpful.
So yeah.
Oh yeah, you go. No, you go.
No. I just wanted to sort of, I'm just thinking about, I suppose the point that Joe raises, with, when it comes to people with pre-existing or who experienced anxiety before or who may not have and are struggling now, but the autistic population and also parents and carers. So, these particular groups, there's lots of research that shows that these people are really vulnerable to poor mental health, just in general, particularly autistic people that experience a lot of stigma, a lot of social isolation, a lot of social exclusion. And, they're just disproportionately a much higher risk of, unfortunately, self-harm, suicidal ideation, self-stigma, as well. And I suppose it just makes me, even more determined, if we can, to try and, perhaps, as Joe's saying, suggest some coping strategies for those people that are really struggling and just feel at a loss. But having said that, a lot of the research that's coming out at the moment on what's going on in the autism community, the autistic community, and the wider autism community, is sort of suggesting that actually there's different stories. Some people who experienced some autistic people and parents and carers were experiencing a lot of stress with the usual, social lives, social world, the way things are set up, the struggles they get with schools and professionals and services, and the unpredictability of life. And all of a sudden, all of that's been removed, and there's actually it's a much more sort of calmer, more predictable, safer situation a lot of people are finding themselves in, because they're they're in their own environments. They're often used to experiencing this kind of isolation in a way, because they get a lot of rejection. And then there's the other group of people who really rely on certain routines that involve them accessing or doing certain things in the usual world, and that's been taken away from them, and all the rest of it, and that's triggered a lot of anxiety. So it's a really complicated situation. But regardless, I suppose mental health is always going to be important, no matter which camp you fall in, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so I suppose it's just complicated, isn't it? There's a lot of things,
and we're all different. We're all different, so
yes,
we all have different needs. So one of my most popular exercises on my training day is getting people to write down all of the things that make them feel good. So what makes you feel good? I love taking a long hot bath. I love going for a long walk. I really like sitting down and chatting to a friend, or doing some knitting, or giving my cat some strokes, and a cuddle. And then kind of working out, well, how long does it take me to do those things? And then putting some time in your day of like, okay, I'm having a busy day today, but I have got 5 minutes. What can I do in 5 minutes? Well, I can cuddle the cat, and I can I don't know, put some nice music on and dance around the living room. Like it's we're all unique. Like me saying I love a hot bath, some people go, oh my god, no, I don't want to do that. I want to go for a run. That makes me feel good. And it's about kind of learning about the things that make us feel good. And actually some things are negative coping strategies. So having a big glass of wine, that's great, it makes you feel good. But having a bottle of wine, that then becomes a negative coping strategy, because it's yes, it makes you feel good, but actually in the long run, it's not doing your body any good. It's like me biting my nails. Like my nails are so short because I've dealt with anxiety my whole life, and this is a coping strategy. It's like I go instantly to my nails, but it's a negative one. Like it's not doing me any good, really. So it's kind of it's knowing your stress triggers as well. So knowing, like, when I'm starting to bite my nails, I'm feeling anxious, checking in, what do I need to do? Okay, I've got 10 minutes, I'm going to go for a walk around the block, and it's really about kind of learning about the things that make you feel good. And it doesn't need to be complicated. You don't have to start meditating, you don't have to start kind of a fitness regime to know what makes you feel good. But also kind of like checking in with yourself and going, is eating 12 bars of chocolate a good thing? I know it makes me feel good when I'm doing it, but afterwards I feel really bad. So it's kind of like almost just writing it all down and kind of, this is what makes me feel good. This is what makes me feel like me. Because I think that's a nice technique.
I fully agree. I'd like to pick up on what you're saying actually a little bit, but we've got a couple of comments that have come in, which I think are very interesting. The first one is from Sarah Joanne Hall. She says laughter unites people during difficult times. And I think there's my feeling is that there's two key points here actually with that comment, which are both very important and interesting. Number one, as you said, laughter is very therapeutic. I mean, if we could find things that make us laugh and find what's humorous for us, that unique thing. And as you were saying, laughter's a great, treatment pill, isn't it, for feeling low and whatnot. But secondly, I think the other thing that's interesting about this comment is the point about uniting. And I think there's quite a bit of research evidence that also says that feeling a sense of collective unity, collective identity, a community, that you feel you're in something shared, and you have, a stake in it, and you have an element of control, and you're working together collectively to something that's also really good for mental health often, isn't it? That sense of community and that you belong.
Definitely. So when you think about us and our communities, like years and years ago, when we were in our tribes, in our communities, being pushed out is a threat. Being pushed out means that you've done something wrong. So it's kind of this emotional fear of like, I've done something wrong. There's some shame, like I've been pushed out, but also on a physical level, your body goes into fight or flight because your body feels under threat. You know, you could get eaten by the tigers, you could get sick and no one could look after you, you could not find any food for a few days and go hungry. Whereas when we're in our community, we have this sort of safety net. We can look after our young, we can look after our sick, we feel really safe. And this time is really strange and interesting because, you know, we're isolating, and even though cognitively we can understand that there's a virus going on, there's something in our kind of reptilian brains and our that is kind of saying something's wrong, we're under threat. And so this stress response, this kind of flood of adrenaline and cortisol is kind of, that's why I say, you know, we're in a collective trauma. We're all experiencing this survival mode because we feel unsafe, you know, and so yeah, finding ways to get out of that, to kind of go woof. And laughter is an instant way of doing that. So laughter basically tells the body, I'm having such a great time, I'm really enjoying myself, this is fun. And you can trick your body into feeling good. So you can encourage your body to laugh and get that release of endorphins and that release of serotonin, and so you're tricking your body, you're going, woo, I'm actually feeling good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, completely.
And it does have all of these amazing properties, like, you know, it lowers the blood pressure and it's a natural painkiller and all of these things. But like Sarah said, it has this capacity to unite people. When you're feeling rubbish and you put the radio on and something makes you laugh, you instantly feel better. And it's a very simplistic thing. I like to see laughter as our body's natural resilience, and it's really something that we can tap into if we know how to, because it makes us feel instantly better, and also it makes us feel closer to one another. You know, when we can laugh about things, you know, there's some studies that couples last longer if they know how to laugh, and it sort of makes sense because if there's like challenges and struggles and they laugh through those times, then they're more resilient. They can build this kind of closeness, which will help you get through difficult times. Like, I can imagine marriage isn't smooth runnings. It's a roller coaster, and it's learning how to, you know, learning how to kind of laugh and find light things in that will help you ride the wave. Yeah,
I fully agree. I've got Cassandra Davies, who's wrote also an interesting comment. My 15-year-old daughter, who is highly academic, has actually found that her stress levels have reduced significantly during the lockdown. She's had the time and space to focus on her creative strengths, and it's been really beneficial to her. So that sort of aligns with what we were talking about earlier, that for some people actually it can be leveraged in a positive way.
Massively. Like, there's no denying that this time is hard, but there are some silver linings, and it's really nice to hear that, because I've been knitting the most ridiculous jumper out of all of the odd bits of wool that I've had kicking around for years. And on one of my blogs, I talk about how when we do something creative, we go into a flow state, and this flow state is like a meditative state. It makes us feel really good and calm, and it's those kind of moments where we lose all time awareness of time, and we're just so involved in this activity. And it sounds to me like Cassandra's daughter is kind of finding those moments, and also there's something really great about it, because after you've been kind of really getting into that activity, then you have something to show for it, and you've created something new, and there's some really, like, it just feels really exciting to have created something new. yeah, I can really resonate with what she's saying, because that's where I've been finding solace, doing some things with my hands, and staying creative.
Kind of reminds me of the fact that I've been sort of I never knew I was interested. I never knew I found enjoyment in this, but I've been doing. I think other people have been doing this as well. A lot of jigsaw puzzles.
Yeah.
my wife and I were sitting there doing jigsaw puzzles, and you're right. You're so right, Katie, in that you get into this sense of focus and flow. I really like the way you say it, and you're sort of in this different sort of state of mind where you're just locked in on something that you're actually making progress with a little bit, and enjoying each time you're making a bit of progress, and you're sort of just giving your mind a little rest actually about all of the other external stresses that happen, all the other things that are rolling around, because often we have so many things rolling around in our minds that we're worried about and that we're juggling, that when you're fixed on something specific and you're finding some enjoyment, actually you just give yourself a little rest, don't you, I suppose, and gives you some calmness.
I like to I was listening to another podcast. I get all my information from people talking to me, which is nice. And they were talking about this Aboriginal tribe who just described the fact that we have 3 brains. So our first brain is our gut, our second brain is our heart, and our third brain is our actual brain. And basically the word that they use to describe the actual brain, it translates as a tangled fishing net. And they basically say that, like, your brain is wonderful for problem solving, but it's not a space that you should be living in. You should be living in your body. You should be living in your heart and your gut, because these two minds are actually a place where you can find lots of information. And I think, like, that's basically the kinds of things that I teach, is coming out of the brain and moving the body and using the breath to just kind of re-engage. It's like mindfulness in motion. It's like, okay, we're gonna really enjoy this moment and be very present. And there's something, you can just get lost in that and find a space of calm in coming out of your brain, definitely.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think part of the challenge, though, is sort of allowing yourself to do it, right? Because sometimes I think I know something's good for me. I know that if I do that jigsaw puzzle, I take my dog for a walk during my lunch hour or whatnot, I know that would be good for my well-being. But then, I think, I've got work, I've got responsibilities, I need to do X, Y, Z. And, but sometimes it's about consciously self-talking and telling yourself, no, just, put yourself and your well-being first, and just let it happen.
I think also, like, I think I mentioned in one of my blogs of, like, treat yourself like a child. Like, don't give yourself such a hard time. Like, if you want to have a nap, go and have a nap, and you'll be more productive giving yourself that rest and coming back with a fresh mind than taking the dog for a walk, then if you're going to sit in front of your screen, like, trying to work. I think sometimes you need to have that balance. And I think we're so used to being productive and go, and we've got to do this meeting and that meeting, and, like, in the world before COVID, it was very much go, and it's almost like you're useless. It's like shameful when you're not being productive, when actually we need to have the balance. Like, you can't have one without the other, and that's why people lead to burnout, because they need to have this balance. They need to give themselves that time to take the dog for a walk and have a breather, because without that, there's this off balance, and that's where poor mental health and anxiety come in. If you're going one way or the other, you can't stay in bed all day. That's not healthy either. So it's finding this balance between the two. And of course, from day to day, we're going to fluctuate. But if we don't allow ourselves, if we don't check in and go, today I've got a thumping headache, I need to be gentle with myself. Just giving yourself that invitation. Like if you had a child there and they said, I've got a headache, you wouldn't be like, no, you've got to do this, this, and this, and this. It's like, so why are we treating ourselves like that?
Right. So true.
Chris, can I just pick up on a point that's come up? When you were talking about unity and the importance to mental health. I think this is a really important point, that everyone going through this, the struggling with COVID-19, it's an opportunity for them to feel like, as an autistic person, I felt, not knowing I was autistic most of my life, and then finding out in late adulthood, in my 40s. I think, it's very similar, and also, so going through that kind of the self-blame phase of life, and thinking, not knowing there's a reason for it, and thinking it's that you're doing something wrong, constantly, and all the kind of bad feelings that come with that, and not having a reason for it. Then, suddenly you might, you know, I've discovered there's a thing called autism, and there's a reason for all these things happening, and it's a tremendous relief, first of all, and also it's been a tremendous, sort of a revelation to find out that there are, hundreds and thousands of people like me around the world, and we can connect through the internet, and it's also, Katie, like you were saying about having a tribe, that's tremendously important, and it's as if I'm empty, and then suddenly I've got something to fill that up, and I can be useful, and all the rest of it, and that's a tremendous benefit to mental health.
And your experience is so valuable, because you've been there. So it's almost like you become a guide then to other people, and then it's like, and then sharing that is like, well, it's worth going through all of that pain and all of that suffering, because now I know I can help other people who are in that similar situation. That's what I think anyway. I feel like, I went through years of anxiety and suffering from panic attacks, and then, showing your vulnerability, showing, okay, this is where I've been. I'll stand up on stage and I'll say, this is where I've been, I've dealt with this, and then I'll have people come up to me at the end and they'll say, my daughter suffers from panic, or I do, or I'm going to try some of those techniques out, and I never thought of it like that, and it's just that connection is so valuable, and it makes you feel like you're not alone, and I think this is the thing with mental health, is that we are getting better about talking about it, but there is some sort of shame of like, you're kind of, I don't know, there's a lot of shame attached to mental health still, I think. To say, like, I'm not okay today, I'm not coping, and I think that the more people talk about it, the more of those connections they can make, and I think that's a strength, when you meet someone that's suffered with the same thing that you've been through, it feels like, that's such a relief.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you're right. I fully agree with you, Katie. And James. I mean, I've been working with James for a long time now on the charity, and for sure he's leveraging what he's learned to help others massively. So that's great. But I think what you're talking about as well a little bit is, self-understanding, self-acceptance, also a little bit of self-stigma as well. Self-stigma is really, really poisonous for our mental health, when we sort of, judge ourselves in a negative state, in part because we don't actually understand what actually is going on and what the truth of the situation is. But once you make the connections, you see the beauty in things, you accept yourself, you can begin to reject it. We've got some more comments. I'm loving all the comments, and I just want to assure all of our audience members that I'm going to get to them. Sorry if I'm a little bit slow in in getting through them, but we're definitely going to get through them. Basista, she says that again, she's sort of agreeing that all the parents are now saying that their children are calmer, especially autistic learners. I mean, yeah, this is what we were talking about earlier. That's quite a lot of actually quite a lot of research is showing this. So that's good. Sarah just added another thing about it's also important to respect our children, as you said last time, regarding watching a bit of video may help. I think this point about respect is really important. Respect yourself, respect your family members, show kindness to everyone around you. What else? Oh yes, sorry, Ree, you added, just with regard to autistic learners feeling calmer, that you guessed that now they don't feel overwhelmed by having to deal with so many transitions in one day. Yeah, that is definitely a big part of it, for sure. Okay, so let me go back, because there was a question here from Ruth Humphreys. Many thanks for this interesting conversation. Do you have any tips around the lack of physical human contact at the moment, aside from online, to help those who are isolated on their... Oh, that's such a good question, isn't it?
Okay, right. I'm stretched out. And then you just give yourself a nice big hug, and you squeeze your arms, and you just... And actually, like, just squeezing your arms, coming back into your body, just releasing tension in your shoulders. I mean, I hate it. I love hugging my friends. I love that aspect of connection, and it's really, really, really hard. But I think the more you can kind of just breathe and be with your body, place your hand on your heart and one on your belly, and just you're safe. You are safe. Just say that to yourself, because when you hug someone, you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm safe. You get that kick of oxytocin, and you're like, oh my God, I'm accepted. I'm safe. I'm part of this tribe. Somebody loves me. Someone's listened to me. Someone can see me. They're hearing me, and all of those things. And yes, we can get part of that online like this, but a lot of it we're going to have to give ourselves at the moment. So it's really just kind of coming out of your brain and just inhabiting your body. And however that feels for you, like maybe you like dancing, maybe you like running, maybe you like yoga, maybe you can just literally warm up your hands like this, nice and warm, and then just place them on your heart or place them over your eyes. Just getting that kind of, just being that touch for yourself right now is all I can sort of suggest. It's really hard. There's no denying that.
James, did you want to say something about that?
I think from autistic people's point of view as well, sensory regulation is very important right now, and I think for carers, definitely allow them to do it, because to self-soothe or whatever they want to do, and whatever comfort habits they have, whether it's re-watching the same part of a TV program or rereading the same book or whatever it is, it's really important right now to have that.
Okay, so Sarah asked, how does a fake laugh work? And then re-added, a fake laugh works. Apparently muscles send signal to brain and ignite certain neurons to release the happiness or the happy hormones.
So
is that right?
So the fake laughter to real laughter is a laughter yoga trick founded by Dr. Madan Kataria in India, and he was a doctor coming across people that were struggling with depression and anxiety, and he basically thought, actually, these people need connection. They need to find their tribe, and they need something that's going to connect them and make them feel good. He did all of this research into laughter and discovered that laughter is one of these amazing things that we can access and instantly makes us feel better. And his wife is a yoga teacher, so they developed laughter yoga, which are a series of exercises that encourage you to laugh, based on the principle that you don't need comedy or humor to stimulate laughter, that you can do it if you are willing to give it a go. And his exercises are all about ha 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 he 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 he, fake laughing until and basically by fake laughing you're telling your body I'm laughing, and it releases all the endorphins, all of those good kind of chemicals, and then it creates this loop of like, oh, I'm laughing, so a natural laugh happens. And if a group of people are doing this together, then we are triggered by each other. So if you start fake laughing, this is something quite interesting about this. So if one of you started fake laughing, because I want to be part of this tribe, I want to be in this crowd, my body would start to laugh with you, because I'm like, come, I want to be in this.
Wow.
There's bits of it I love, and it definitely works. But I'm kind of more drawn to bringing out natural laughter, and through kind of playful exercises and different things, different kind of interactions that encourage a natural laugh, because getting to a natural laugh is the kind of the aim anyway. But yeah, it goes ha 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 he 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 he, and it does. As soon as you start doing it, you're activating the diaphragm, the muscles, and you're telling your body, I'm laughing, I'm having a great time, and your brain doesn't know the difference between a real or, well, it does. Your body, doesn't know the difference between a real or a fake laugh.
Wow.
Your brain does know the difference, but your body doesn't. So when you're activating this diaphragm, it's moving up and down, you're telling your body, I'm having a laugh. And so it releases all those chemicals, and then natural laughter comes.
I had
so
no
it's
idea.
quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I had no idea. I'm going to round up my family later, and I'm going to insist that we all just laugh no matter what they say. Steve.
Oh, that's a big one, Steve. Yeah.
Steve Neskis. Thank you, Steve. Sorry that it's taken a bit of time to get to your comment. That's how we use our tangle mind to make our decisions for us. But your gut is telling you, go ahead and smell the roses, take your dog out for a walk. So make small changes and tell your tangle mind that it's okay to take a short walk. Like when I'm trying to do the gardening, I get overwhelmed and I say I'll just do this little piece, and the next thing you know, you've done that little piece, and in that little piece, the most important thing is that you just start the process to take baby steps.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. Your tangled mind is useful for problem solving, definitely. But yeah, like he says, it's like, you need to go out and smell the roses. You need to go and use your body and your senses. And I couldn't have said it better.
Moira is just sort of coming in on what you said, James, about sensory regulation and physical contact. Hi, Moira, by the way. We've seen her on a couple of times from South Africa, all the way from South Africa.
Wow.
We've got to get her. We've got to get her on at some point. So she says, all my kiddies at the home. So Moira she was telling us that she is a manager of a residential care home for adults with learning disabilities, and many of whom are autistic. So all of my, maybe they're not adults, actually, they might be children. I might be wrong. Or mixture. Yeah. All of my kiddies at the home are low functioning, so we do a lot of deep pressure massages dependent on the individual, and it keeps them calm a lot. So yeah, this is exactly what you were saying, James, isn't it? It's thinking about how to, stimulate the sort of sensory side of things.
Yeah, some people are very dependent on that sensory processing for everything, through communication, and everything. So they'll be dependent on it a lot more.
Yeah, Joe agrees. I like James Gordon's point about allowing autistic people to self-soothe through stimming. Maybe now is the time to learn from the autistic community. Having a go at some stims could help bring people into their body, as Katie suggests. That's such a good point. Yeah, really good point. Thank you for that, Joe.
She's so clever.
A good person to learn from is Agony Auty, Sarah Harvey.
Yeah, she does a lot on that, doesn't she?
Does a thing called stim dancing. So
yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah,
I haven't heard of that. I'm going to have to Google it. I'm just writing it down.
Yeah, she's amazing. Agony Auty. Yeah, really amazing.
You can put the link down below as well.
Yeah. Okay, so what else? Just make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay, so Sarah Joanne Hall. Gosh, can you believe 41 minutes have already gone?
Wow.
Sarah Joanne Hall, can you share some strategies in terms of panic attacks? I did want to talk to you about this. Actually, Katie, because I think panic attacks is actually something that we haven't really talked very much about before. And if you don't mind, it would be really, I suspect a lot of people would identify, would know the feeling, but don't know necessarily the strategies. And it would just be great to get if you don't mind, talking through perhaps a little bit about your own experience with that and your advice based on personal experience or whatever you want to say, really.
So, in my late teens, when I started learning to drive, I passed my test and would have, I started experiencing panic when I was driving. And this has been something that's been ongoing. So, and it's still here. I'm living with the panic. I haven't got rid of it. I'm managing it, learning to manage it. So what happens is, when I'm driving on a motorway or a dual carriageway, it's almost like my brain has these spots on the road. And I think people who suffer with this particular version of panic resonate with this. I think I've spoken to Sarah about this before, actually, where you think, I'm going to panic in that bit when I have to change lanes or whatever. Anyway, so when you panic, your heart starts to beat faster and your stomach starts to churn and your hands get really sweaty. And everyone tells you to breathe. You've got to breathe. You've got to, take deep breaths. And yes, that does help, because when you're panicking, you're squeezing all the air out of your lungs and you're hyperventilating essentially, and all of your blood is being pumped into your body because you feel under threat. So that's why you get faint, because it's going to all of your so you can run away from the threat. But the thing is with panic is it's not necessarily, there isn't necessarily a threat there. It's a psychological thing, and there can be certain triggers that trigger the attack. So I would always pull over if I could. But I was driving home for Christmas one year and felt the panic arise, and it was in the early days of running laughter workshops. I was just doing them down here in Cornwall, and I was saying to people, it's really good to practice this in your everyday life, bring some laughter into your life. So I took my own advice, and I felt the panic arise, and I started laughing. I started initially with a fake laugh, which turned into a real laugh. And then I started kind of, I just started laughing. And in that moment, there was this real transition. So I was really intrigued as to, it was a transition of I'm not panicking anymore. I'm actually, it was almost like elation, like I'm having the best time, because I told my body, no, you're not panicking. And then I got really interested in what exactly what exactly is this? What's going on in my body? And panic is up here. It's like a frequency up here, let's say, and breathing is down here. And it takes quite a long way to get to breathing, but it does help. But excitement is on the same frequency. Woo! So if you start to panic and you say to yourself, you do something like laughter that says to your body, I'm excited, it will hop into excitement, because they both have the same bodily symptoms. So when you're excited, your heart starts to beat, your stomach starts to churn, your palms get sweaty. And so by doing that, by actively laughing in that moment, I told my body, I'm not panicking. I'm having a great time. I'm actually really excited. And it's really odd. And that's all I can describe. It is very odd, but it works. I wonder if Sarah's tried this. So it does feel really mad. So I have a prompt now where if I feel the panic, I will imagine that I'm on a roller coaster and I'll go, woohoo, like properly loud. And that signals to my brain, I'm having a great time. And it really works. Like, I can't tell you how quickly it works. And it made me, it made me want to go and share it with people, because I was like, we have access to all of these things in our bodies that can help to heal us, and we just need to learn how to do it. And obviously people's different experiences of panic, there are lots of different experiences of panic, but essentially it's a kind of a rush of adrenaline and cortisol saying to the body, I'm under threat, I'm going to die right now. So anything that you can do to go, no, I'm safe, it will help you to get out of that like extreme fight or flight. But yeah, that's just my experience, really. I wonder if that's any use.
Actually, Sarah's just wrote here that she does. It's the car. And I suppose she's saying she does it in the car all the time. So maybe she has been doing something similar. I had no idea. That's fascinating that the excitement, as you put it, state of being is on the same frequency as the sort of panic. And it makes sense. It's a very, I suppose, physiologically, it's a similar sort of set of bodily reactions. So it's just about just telling yourself to just slightly tune into slightly different frequency and then transition out.
But the adrenaline, it's like there's adrenaline in both of these frequencies, and the adrenaline evens out if you say, I'm having the best time, if you tell your body you're excited. And actually I find myself laughing if I'm doing anything scary. I did a ropes course, a tree top ropes course, completely terrified of heights, and I just laughed the whole way. And because it's a way of like instantly relieving that stress.
I've had the same kind of thing when I was first driving. I've been driving for a long time now, for I think 25 years. But looking back on it, it was motorway driving that was the most nerve-wracking, and and I understand what you meant about the adrenaline feeling. For a good couple of years, I sort of eased myself into that very gradually, because to avoid those kind of panicky, to avoid the situations, I luckily didn't have to go on the motorway, so I could do it slowly. But also, I've had, because my son enjoys roller coasters so much, I've also had to force myself onto those, which I don't normally do. And I've actually learned, when you're just at the top of the rise of a very high drop, if you take a very deep breath in, I can then manage, and I don't have any fear, because I've just had that sort of big hit of oxygen or whatever it is, and I sort of feel more grounded then, so I can sort of cope. I don't know if that helps in any way.
Yeah, it's all about the breath. The breath is a wonderful grounding tool. I use the breath for everything. I work in a detox centre with people who are going through their detox from alcohol and drugs, and often met in very challenging situations. And I very often just take a deep breath. You know, someone's shouting at me, or there's like something kicking off, taking a deep breath. And I don't know, I know all of these things, but I don't know who's done the research. But there is some evidence that says that in a stressful situation, if your family's there, everyone will take the lead from the mother or the father or whatever. And if one of you in that group, but particularly if it is the mother or father, takes a nice deep breath, the whole group will regulate with that breath. So if someone else is breathing deeply, you does that make sense? You kind of join in with them. So you start to breathe deeply, and you can test it out with your partner, or like, your children, if they're starting to get quite stressed out or anxious. If you start breathing deeply into your belly, you'll find that they'll start to do it too.
Fascinating. Reese just added that the brain is malleable. You can trick your brain. That I have learned from my hearing therapist when I couldn't move my head. Eventually, I turned my head sideways by slowly training my brain, saying there is no danger. Okay, wow. I mean, yeah, that's a powerful example, isn't it?
Well, yeah, so all of these different practices that help you to create new neural connections in the brain, and your brain is, well, it's neuroplasticity, like it will change and grow. So if you start practicing these things, then they start to become something that you do naturally. So like I meditate every morning if I can, and that meditation is led me to being able to take a deep breath when I'm in a challenging situation. So I've trained my brain to go, okay, actually this is what I've got to do now, and this is how I can manage this situation. And that is neuroplasticity. Like, you can practice something and change the way that you're change the connection. So, okay, I'm stressed and I used to pick up a glass of wine, but I learned that that's not really very good. So I started practicing yoga, and now when I'm feeling stressed, I'll start practicing yoga and I feel better. And you train yourself, that's a bad example, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, nice, good example. Okay, so, and Moira's just said that Moira Sinclair's just sort of helpfully added, I think she's added a YouTube link.
Oh, great.
Which is just sort of short little video of, I think it's her son, Ryan, getting through his daily life challenges, just as an example of what our residents go through daily. Please feel free to share if you wish. Yeah, we'll have a look at that. Thank you very much, Moira. I'm sure that's helpful. So I've just got a couple of other things. I know we're running up to an hour already. I just wanted to sort of, again, think of the I suppose I was thinking of it from the autistic point of view, or the sort of parent carers point of view, but this is sort of relevant for everybody, I guess. But I know for parents and carers of autistic children in particular, a lot of the struggles with mental health come down to, I mean, obviously it's very complicated, but some of it is down to feeling, making comparisons, let's say, with other children, neurotypical children, how they're getting on, seeing, whoever it is progress in all these academic things, but their child perhaps struggling. And it's often those comparisons that, really impact upon parents and carers' mental health. And then they start to self-blame, could they be doing more? And it's all quite, it can all be quite challenging, I suppose, for parents and carers. And, I just think that's something else worth highlighting, isn't it? That, and again, I think you said it right at the outset that actually everybody's situation is quite unique. And I always sort of think best not to compare your situation or yourselves with others, because that can only often lead to, if you're making the comparison, it's usually going to be for a sort of negative reason, really, isn't it? Often. So I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that.
Well, we all do it, don't we? But it's one of the things that can bring us most suffering, because there's always going to be people that are better than us, and there's always going to be people worse off than us. And I think gratitude is a great way of getting out of that. I love my gratitude practice. So before bed, I'll think of 3 things in the day that I've like felt grateful for, and it's very simple, and it's kind of going, actually, we're okay, this is okay. Today I got to chat to someone that loves me, or today I saw a beautiful bird in my garden. Is looking at all of the simple things, and I don't know, is that the right answer?
No, but I think it's a good point, actually. Just sort of spending time to think through things that you're grateful for. That's a very helpful thing, isn't it? Because we don't often do that. I suppose that's part of self-compassion, right? And self-kindness, just sort of not looking, that's part of looking after your own mental health and thinking about actually what good things are happening in your life, and sort of recalibrating, I suppose, your sense of perspective on things.
What's good about it is your brain doesn't know the difference. It doesn't know that event isn't happening right now. If you're imagining that beautiful event, and you're not just imagining it and visualizing it, you're feeling it in your body, feeling that, like savoring that moment, then your body will release those chemicals because it thinks that it's there. So that's why I do it before bed, and I sleep so well. I sleep I go to sleep so quickly because I do this practice before I go to bed, and I'm releasing all of these wonderful chemicals. I think, and it's a really good thing of, like, if you are comparing yourself to others, or getting anxious about other children's progress, and just going, today my child did this, and having that pride, or having that savor, or today we had this connection, and we had a nice hug. It's just the simple things are gonna get you through.
It's important to think about the positives and not to dwell on the deficits or whatever. That's why I think professionals need to really set an example here, and sort of rethink a lot of what they're doing, because they're sort of reinforcing a lot of negatives a lot of the time. I'm talking about medical professionals mainly, but so for example, when parents get a child a diagnosis, an autism diagnosis, that's often where they hear a lot of deficits and that kind of thing, and we need to be hearing the positives, because that's when parents are kind of they're most vulnerable, and and they're they're feeling their worst and that kind of thing. So
it's also it's also carry on.
Sorry, a lot of it's sort of, if it wasn't done in that negative way, then they wouldn't feel like that to begin with, So that's all I wanted to say.
But it's like saying that there's a lack here, when in fact there's a beautiful being here that has a unique offering, and it's not celebrated. It's it's like something's taken away from you, instead of, here's this beautiful being that's going to bring you joy. And also, but I was thinking also, like, I'm very aware of the fact that we can't be positive all of the time, that we need a balance, and it's completely okay to not be okay, and to have a cry, and to give up for a morning or a day, and to write the day off. They have this saying in the rehab where I work, where you can start your day at any time. You can start your day right now at 9:30 at night. It doesn't, you don't, like, you can write off every time before that and go, I'm going to start afresh now. it's just kind of rethinking stuff. My brain's turned to mush.
Yeah, no,
But
no,
yes.
I think you're right. It's so often about rethinking or cognitive restructuring, isn't it? Often, but it's just I suppose the tricky thing is, you know, being transitioning from being in a bad place, tough place, to being able to do those positive, kind things. But it does come with so many rewards. But it's just like the sort of the leap between just being in a, you know, being in a terrible dark place and then finding ways to look after yourself and pushing back on all of these issues and stigma and I suppose the thing, the point James is making is that we wouldn't need to push back so hard sometimes if society, you know, really helped us along the way. You know, it shouldn't be the case that, you know, when a child is diagnosed as autistic, that professionals are, you know, labeling it as a deficit and you know, a terrible thing, and even just non-verbally. I had that personal experience with pediatricians really sort of giving me very non-verbal, almost pity responses to my child being autistic. And I'm fortunate because I know, you know, I'm me. I know the nonsense of it. But as James said, you know, a lot of parents and a lot of people are, you know, they wouldn't necessarily know two ways. And they would often trust, you know, it's this cultural thing, isn't it, to trust professionals and the people making the diagnosis. And so, you know, I think there's a lot. I think underneath everything or above everything, all around everything we discussed today, are a lot of social issues. Because if it wasn't for the social problems, the discrimination, the inequality, the poverty, and all the rest of it, we wouldn't need to push back so much. We wouldn't need to, you know, find ourselves needing necessarily to consciously make all of these, you know, important, helpful changes. I just guess, you know, society, you know, things could be better, I think, and that would help our mental health ultimately.
Yeah.
I think if that reassurance and that support was there from the start, then I think, you know, it would be like Katie was saying about training the brain to react in a different way, you know. And
yeah, it's great to learn all these different techniques though to support yourself, all these different methods, because we also often have it up against it, right, because of all these issues. And George is sort of making the point, you know, I like the idea of focusing on simple things that can get you through. Yeah, that, you know, that's so true. I mean, just laughing, breathing, going with your gut, you know, this actually quite simple things, but you know, why aren't we doing
forget
more of it?
Get it. We think we need to work it out. We think we need to work this out, and we need to have an answer, and we need to, you know, and actually it's not good to stay up here. We just need to use our senses and come back to the present moment, and find a little bit of rest in that. And by doing that, we're coming out of our stress response. We're coming out of our fight or flight. We're saying, I'm safe. I've got this. I'm breathing right now. I've got, you know, today I had these events that I savored and were good. And it's continually saying to yourself, I'm safe, and I'm loved. And, you know, and all of those things are really important. Like, we all need that. So keep it simple.
Okay, well, that has been really fascinating. We're 64 minutes in. I mean, I can't believe how quickly that's flown by. That might be a record. I don't know. The questions and comments have been fantastic. Thank you so much to everybody. I don't know if you had any other questions, James, or any comments from your side.
No, I think we've talked about a lot. So I can't believe how quickly it's going as well.
Yeah, it has gone really quickly. So, so if people want to find you, Katie, or connect with you, how do they do that?
So I'm quite good on I'm quite good on Facebook, not so good on all of the others. So I'm the Best Medicine I think it's
Cornwall,
Cornwall.
isn't it? Yeah.
The Best Medicine Cornwall on Facebook. Follow me, and I'm doing fortnightly playful presence workshops on Zoom, which have been really successful and really silly, getting you to kind of connect with yourself, but also feel a part of a group. And check out my website as well. Have a look at my blogs. So it's thebestmedicine.co.uk. And if you go to the 21 days of self-care, there's a lot of information there, just to kind of look after yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. So it's really important that you learn how to self-soothe, look after yourself, and so you're better able to support other people.
Fully agree. Okay, well, that is pretty much it then, I think, for this week's episode. Again, huge thanks, Katie. It's really great having you on. I've personally really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I'm going to reflect on everything that you said. Yeah, just a big thank you from me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I want to hear your reports of laughter before bedtime with your family. Laughter.
Okay, I've got to do it now. I can't break my promise.
Oh, yeah, you got to do it. Thank you so much for everyone that's tuned in as well. It feels exciting to have people across the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I will sign off. All right. If people are just saying thanks and whatnot. So yeah, maybe we'll pick up some comments offline a little bit if necessary.
Yeah.
All right. Take care. Yeah. Take it and stay safe as well, and stay well too, Katie. All the best.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.